Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Buddhist Temple of Toledo. Please be seated and turn to page 2 in your liturgy book. Gata of Atonement. All evil karma ever committed by me since on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance. Nikaya 3 Refuges. Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Take refuge in Buddha. I take refuge in Dharma. I take refuge in Dharma. I take refuge in Sangha. I take refuge in Sangha. The 5 remembrances. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature of change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My deeds are my closest companions. I am the beneficiary of my deeds. My deeds are the ground on which I stand. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature of change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My deeds are my closest companions. I am the beneficiary of my deeds. My deeds are the ground on which I stand. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature of change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My deeds are my closest companions. I am the beneficiary of my deeds. My deeds are the ground on which I stand. This precious human life, rarely encountered, is easily lost. Now that I have life and opportunity, may I practice the Dharma wholeheartedly. Mahayana Refuge. In my heart, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. May I liberate suffering beings and bring them to great joy. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I may actualize the great way. In my heart, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. May I liberate suffering beings and bring them to great joy. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I may actualize the great way. In my heart, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. May I liberate suffering beings and bring them to great joy. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I may actualize the great way. Invocation of the lineage. I give thanks for the guidance of my teachers, for the lineage of teachers before them. I give thanks and offerings for their devoted practice of generosity, moral discipline, patience, joyful effort, concentration, wisdom, skillful means, unshakable vow, spiritual powers, and awakened awareness for my benefit. May their years of life be lengthened. May their vows be completely realized, and may I cultivate these perfections with their guidance. 7 practices of the Bodhisattva. I bow down in body, speech, and mind. I offer the best I have to give, both real and imagined, to fill the space between us. I regret and purify all transgressions. I rejoice in all virtues. I request you to remain until total enlightenment. I request wise and compassionate guidance. I dedicate my merit for the sake of all beings. Generating love and compassion. May all sentient beings be free from clinging and hatred, being close to some and distant from others. How wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will free them from clinging and hatred. Bless me to accomplish this. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the causes of happiness. How wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will bring them happiness and the causes of happiness. Bless me to accomplish this. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. How wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will free them from suffering and the causes of suffering. Bless me to accomplish this. May all sentient beings have the joy that has never known suffering. May they be free from clinging, hatred, jealousy, miserliness, doubt, pride, wrong view, ignorance, and dualistic thoughts. How wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will bring them to this state. Bless me to accomplish this. Please stand and turn to page 5 for the harmony of relative and absolute. The harmony of relative and absolute. The mind of the great sage of India is intimately conveyed from west to east among human beings are wise ones and fools, but in the way there is no northern or southern ancestor. The subtle source is clear and bright. The tributary streams flow through the darkness. To be attached to things is illusion. To encounter the absolute is not yet enlightenment. Each and all the subjective and objective spheres are related and at the same time independent, related yet working differently. Though each keeps its own place, form makes the character and appearance different. Sounds distinguish comfort and discomfort. The dark makes all words one. The brightness distinguishes good and bad phrases. The four elements turn to their nature as a child to its mother. Fire is hot, wind moves, water is wet, earth hard, eyes see, ears hear, nose smells, tongue tastes the salt and sour. Each is independent of the other. Cause and effect must return to the great reality. The words high and low relatively within light there is darkness, but do not try to understand that darkness. Within darkness there is light, but do not look for that light. Light and darkness are a pair, not one, not two, like the foot before and the foot behind in walking. Each has its own intrinsic value and is related to everything else in function and position. Ordinary life fits the absolute as a box, and its lid. The absolute works together with the relative like two arrows meeting in mid-air. Reading words, you should grasp the great reality. Do not judge by any standards. If you do not see the way, you do not see it, even as you walk on it. When you walk the way, it is not near, it is not far. But if you are confused, mountains and rivers block your way. I respectfully urge you who study the mystery, do not pass your days and nights in vain. Infinite realms of light and dark convey the Buddha mind. All that is and we ourselves come forth in perfect harmony. We offer this sincere and devoted practice for the many beings of the 6 worlds and dedicate it in grateful thanks to the strength and sound practice of the great Heartland Sangha and its teachers. May our virtuous actions be clear from all interferences, and may our vows be fully realized. We especially dedicate these merits to Jenny, Shauna, Emily, Aunt Angie, Wayne, Sarah for their peace and healing, as well as Vicky and John at the time of their passing. We also dedicate this to those whose names we hold in the silence of our hearts, as well as those whose names we now voice aloud. May we live in perfect peace with Buddha Dharma, and may we realize the Buddha way together. All Buddhas throughout space and time, all honored Bodhisattva Mahasattvas, wisdom beyond wisdom, Mahaprajna Paramita. Please prepare for Zazen. For our walking meditation, first and third rows from the center will turn to your right. Second and fourth will turn to your left. Please follow the person in front of you, and if you are seasoned on the path, please place yourself helpfully. We will now recite the Song of Covenant. It can be found on page 8. We, the Daishin Kokuji Sangha, with respect for the worth and dignity of each person, with wonder at the wisdom and compassion we seek to cultivate by practice, and with deep gratitude for the teachers of this lineage and our connection to one another, covenant to support each other by upholding the precepts of doing no harm, practicing good, and actualizing good for others. Please be seated for today's talk. Face the altar such that you can see the teachers. And in a moment, we'll be reciting the Gatha on opening the sutra on that same page. Gatha on opening the sutra. The Dharma incomparably profound and infinitely subtle is rarely encountered even in millions of ages. Now we see it, hear it, receive and maintain it. May we completely realize the true meaning.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here on this gorgeous summer afternoon. It's lovely to see new faces and old friends and new friends, and everybody is welcome here at the Buddhist Temple of Toledo. Today, we are going to be looking at a section of Zen flesh, Zen bones. We've been working through this text on Sundays, and we're up to chapter 8, Great Waves. In the early days of the Meiji era, there lived a well-known sumo wrestler called Onami, Great Waves. Onami was immensely strong and knew the art of sumo. In his private bouts, he defeated even his teacher. But in public, he was so bashful that his own pupils threw him. Onami felt he should go to a Zen master for help. Hakujo, a wandering teacher, was stopping in a little temple nearby. So Onami went to see him and told him of his trouble. Great Waves is your name, the teacher advised. So stay in this temple tonight. Imagine that you are those billows. You are no longer a sumo wrestler who is afraid. You are those huge waves sweeping everything before them, swallowing all in their path. Do this, and you will be the greatest wrestler in the land. The teacher retired. Onami sat in meditation, trying to imagine himself as waves. He thought of many different things. We can all relate. No. Then gradually, he turned more and more to the feeling of the waves. As the night advanced, the waves became larger and larger. They swept away the flowers in their vases. Even the Buddha in the shrine was inundated. Before dawn, the temple was nothing but the ebb and flow of an immense sea. In the morning, the teacher found Onami meditating, a faint smile on his face. He patted the wrestler's shoulder. Now, nothing can disturb you, he said. You are those waves. You will sweep everything before you. The same day, Onami entered the sumo competition and won. After that, no one in Japan was able to defeat him. And I have a little coda that I put on this story. Until he got too old, sick, or weak. So, there should be a little, like they have the warning on cigarettes, and they have the warning on the bottle of alcohol that you've just bought. This should come with this story should come with the Dharma warning. Proceed cautiously in understanding this story. Because, we all kind of perk up. Hey, this is like Kung Fu Panda. We love these stories, right? Do a little meditation, get your superpowers on, and rule the world. Eradicate the bad guy, right? So in Buddhism, this shades into what's called spiritual materialism, right? I'm meditating to get my best life on, right? I'm meditating so that I can make $1 million, make at least more than I'm making right now, look a little better, talk a little better, be a little less uncomfortable with myself and others. You get the drift, right? This is not Mahayana Buddhism. Let me say that again. This is not Mahayana Buddhism. This is transactional meditation, right? Pretty easy to do and has no power for the bodhisattva. The bodhisattva makes the vow to put others before ourselves. In fact, we will bring all beings, every single one, to full and complete Buddhahood. And we will do that before we just say, I'm out of here, I got mine, right? And that vow to free all sentient beings is the motivation for us to realize our own Buddhahood. Because we realize very, very quickly we just don't have all of the means and the capacity to, let alone free others, free ourselves. Right? So you see the difference between spiritual materialism and Mahayana Buddhism, the Bodhisattva vow, couldn't be further apart. And you know, perhaps it's pretty easy to take this understanding and kind of gaze around at the marketplace of what's happening in meditation in the world, in the country, and see that most people are using meditation for spiritual materialism, for material gains, transactionally. Now, does it work? Well, yes, it does. Of course it works. That's the whole point. It was designed to overcome all obstructions, right? So, interestingly, I went down a bit of a YouTube rabbit hole yesterday, and I went down it primarily because I was in my Dharma teacher's Zoom group, and someone was saying, oh, the Frederick Lenz Foundation is offering like a $25,000 grant for women to that are teaching the Dharma. I think we should apply as a group. And I'm like, I don't know. I think I remember that dude. He was like, you know, had his picture in Interview magazine, which was Andy Warhol's magazine back in the day. And he looked just like Peter Frampton. He had like, it was a big magazine, like really big, right? The biggest one on the stage. And he had like a full page ad out, right? And his hair was all like Peter Frampton, if you remember that era. And he was backlit with this halo of white all around him. And it just said, Zen Master Rama, right? And I remember asking my teacher about him back in the day, and he said, no, this guy's not good. This guy's not good. But I won't go into the whole story of Zen Master Rama. You can totally Google him if you want. But he's a really good example of spiritual materialism. Generally, if the teacher is asking for money and more money and more money, that's your red flag, right? There was also, of course, as I said, I went down the rabbit hole. There was also another beautiful young girl, Guru Jagat, who also had a similar experience. Anyway, buyer beware, right? Make sure that you're practicing the true Dharma, because our lives are pretty short, and you don't want to be making stupid mistakes for decades on end, right? Anyway, so having said all that, we're going to go through this story. So in the early days of the Meiji era, so Meiji era, what the heck is that, right? I'm going to try to make this interesting because I think it is interesting, right? So Japan, island nation state, kind of isolated, right? Primary religion, oldest religion is Shintoism, which is the kami, the gods, and the imperial, the emperors are descended from the gods, okay? At some point, Buddhism sort of like creeps in there somehow. Buddhism is kind of like this little like space capsule that sort of moves through time and through cultures. It never really, wherever it is, it's just this little thing. Even in India, where it was born, it was never really like the big religion, right? So we're going along, and this guy named Admiral Perry, which you should perk up your ears a little bit, because this dude was the brother of the famous Commodore Perry, of which Perrysburg is named after, right, for the Battle of Lake Erie. So, but he was his brother, opened up the port of Japan, I think around the 1850s or so. And this was sort of like Japan didn't want to be opened up. Remember, they had the Portuguese over there for a long time and trying to evangelize and bring everybody to Catholicism, and they basically kicked them all out. It wasn't a pretty sight either, as far as I understand from the history. So this is kind of the start of the early pre-Meiji, right? What happens is the Western industrial life starts creeping in, right, to Japan. That happens first. And then secondly, the emperor, who was basically only 14 years old when he started, figured out a way of like taking the power from the shogunate and consolidating it in the imperial court. So the center of government used to be Kyoto in Japan, and it switched to Tokyo. And Tokyo used to be called Edo. Part of this centralizing of the government was also that they were going to modernize and westernize Japan, okay? So guess which religion won as like best of in Japan at that time? It wasn't Buddhism, right? It was actually Shintoism. Now, sumo is very much related to Shintoism. Keep that in your pocket there. So, interestingly enough, when they started shutting down all the Buddhist temples, guess who went in there and got all the Buddhist artifacts before they just got like destroyed or burned or whatever? Some folks from Boston. Fascinating. Now remember, Boston is a port city, so they had the whole New England coast there, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. They already had all of these shipping trade routes, connections to Japan and China and the East. They had been like moving back and forth for a long, long time. If you ever go to the Peabody Essex Museum in Salem, there's a lot of discussion about that. But anyway, there were There was one Japanese dude that connected with this Boston guy, and his name was Fenolosa. There was also this guy, Bigelow. Have you ever heard of Bigelow tea? Every time you drink Bigelow tea, you're drinking the tea that was founded by this guy, Bigelow, who actually converted to Buddhism. Isn't that fascinating? It's sort of like the People magazine of like Buddhism or something. Well, anyway, they all went over there and they got all the Buddhist artifacts out. So when you go to the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, you are actually looking at the largest collection of Meiji-era Buddhist art in the world. Isn't that fascinating? It's kind of a small world, right? You can feel the smallness of it. Parenthetically, that was where I hung out a lot at the Museum of Fine Arts in the Asian section. I would go there a lot. Fascinating. Anyway, so here we are in the early days of Meiji, right? Buddhism is like on its way down. Shinto's on the way up. And so sumo, because it's connected with Shinto, is like one of the arts that gets elevated and preserved. Now, for those, I think all of us have this, image in our mind when you think of sumo, right? Those big fat guys, and they got the belts, and they bend down, and they go, whoa, and they go, wah, and they go, wah, wah, and they try to knock each other over, right? Well, guess how long those matches last? 4 minutes, right? If you can't handle the dude in 4 minutes, they stop the match, right? Everybody gets a nice drink of water, they relax a little bit, they regroup, and then they go back at it for another 4 minutes. If, at the end of 4 minutes, nobody's won, that's it, the match is over, it's a draw. So this is a really condensed period of time. You have to really be on your game. You've only got 4 minutes to take the other guy out. So you can't be messing around with any doubt, because the other guy certainly isn't. And you've got like 250, 300 pounds coming at you, right? And all the person has to do is flip you in such a way that any other part of your body, other than the bottom of your feet, touches the ground, you've won. So that's why they grab him by the belt. See it like that. Anyway. The other piece of information that's interesting about this is that, so in Japan, the arts are so controlled and taken so seriously. It's like a life dedication commitment, right? If you're studying tea ceremony, that's pretty much all you're doing, right? If you're studying sumo, you're living basically like a monk. You're living in a building with all these other sumo wrestlers, and there's all kinds of hierarchy, and if you're you just started and you're the junior, you're cleaning the toilets and making the food, and if you're like a high prize winning sumo wrestler, you're just basically sitting around doing a little training, but mostly watching everybody else do the work. The point of this is that already Umani had incredible discipline, incredible concentration, incredible devotion to his practice. So he knew he had the energetic signature of those things already in his body and in his mind, right? Well, what else do you need those kind of energetic signatures for? Zazen, right? Exactly the same. But he was studying martial arts. He was not studying Mahayana Buddhism, right? So even though he had all of this physical prowess and mental prowess to be able to dominate while he was in the sanctuary of the dojo, right? As soon as he stepped out of that ring, so to speak, something that he hadn't worked on at all showed up. And it wasn't his fault that he wasn't working on it. It just never had a chance to, or a reason to arise, right? Because he had really disciplined and trained and worked in so many areas of unifying his body and his mind and his heart. He gets in public, and what happens? His ego goes, holy shit, people, judgment, crowds, I am freaking out, right? But this is such a great example because we call this ego by very many names, but one of them is the object of negation. It's this sort of like hard pan, deep structure of our heart mind. And it basically only comes out in times of, if you've been practicing or training, in times of deep, like, stress, right? Like, right? We can go through our entire life and maybe have 2 or 3 moments, right? But mostly you don't have to worry about it. Unless things are so bad you can't even get through the day, which happens quite a bit, doesn't it? So anyway, like this object of negation, this hard pan, this sort of, this thing that just arises and you have no control over it. Sometimes it's called the alaya consciousness, the storehouse consciousness of all of the karma that your mind has ever accumulated through space and time, right? And it's very hard to work with it because it's so elusive. Poor Omani, he was like, had to like work with it in public, right? There was no getting around it. It was right there for him. So he knew, because his martial arts training couldn't quite work with that deep, hard pan structure of the ego, that he had to go to who else? The Zen master, right? Because Zen specializes in working with breaking up the hard pan of that alaya consciousness. Great waves is your name, the teacher advised. So stay in this temple tonight. Imagine you are those billows. You are no longer a wrestler who is afraid. You are those huge waves sweeping everything before them, swallowing all in their path. Do this, and you will be the greatest wrestler in the land. Okay. So he's being very kind to this wrestler. And I'm not sure that he was really doing him a lot of favors, to tell you the truth, because he let him enter into that transactional understanding of practice. And this actually makes me a little sad. It should give all of us a moment of pause. the teacher retired, Onami sat in meditation, trying to imagine himself as waves. He thought of many different things. Then gradually he turned more and more to the feeling of the waves. So here, he just allows himself to become himself. His name is Great Waves. He allows himself to become his true self, his true nature, his Buddha nature. As the night advanced, the waves became larger and larger. They swept away the flowers in their vases. Even the Buddha in the shrine was inundated. Before dawn, the temple was nothing but the ebb and flow of an immense sea. So, just like water rolling over rock, gradually erodes the rock. This direct encounter with his true nature, with his Buddha nature, eroded that hard pan object of negation that is so hard to work with and so elusive. In the morning, the teacher found Onami meditating, a faint smile on his face. So interestingly enough, when someone has done this work, right, it is recognizable, immediately recognizable. And you don't have to say a thing. You don't have to do a thing. It's like, wah, wah, wah. It's just like beaming out of you, right? Especially like when you come into Dokusan or something, private interview with the teacher. Don't worry about what you're going to say, because we already know. We know by how you walk down the hall. We know by how you open the door. We know by the expression on your face. We know by the color of your skin. Right? He patted the wrestler's shoulder. Now nothing can disturb you. Well, that was a little bit, selling him a little bit of a something there. Because this is the problem, right? Nothing can disturb you. Oh, everything's perfect. It will always be perfect. I love my life. Not true, right? As a bodhisattva, right, we go into what's called the blue dragon's cave. We are so equipped with what we need to heal the suffering of ourselves and others. We willingly go into the suffering. Far from, oh my God, nothing's going to disturb you, your life is going to be perfect. No. You willingly jump into the muddy, confusing, difficult life. But you jump and you do that as a bodhisattva. You are those waves. You will sweep everything before you. Those waves of Dharmakaya, those waves of Buddha nature, will, in fact, sweep and transform everything. But that doesn't mean you're not jumping right in the doo-doo. That's where, in fact, if you don't do that, then you're not fulfilling your bodhisattva vow, right? And if you don't fulfill your bodhisattva vow, Buddhahood is off the table, right? Isn't that amazing? Going into the suffering. But you go into it with union with your Buddha nature. And that makes all the difference in the world. You go into it having broken up that hard pan of this self that you keep on knocking against and everybody else keeps on knocking against. The same day, Onami entered the wrestling contest and won. After that, no one in Japan was able to defeat him. Yay! But you see how far away we are, right, from the Bodhisattva idea. Now, there's nothing wrong with being undefeated. I think it's kind of, fun, entertaining, whatever. Personally, I would have liked this story to end up. The next day, Onami entered the wrestling contest and won. After that, no one in Japan was able to defeat him, and he went to the temple to train as a monk. That is the way the story should have ended, right? And then, of course, if you got too old, too sick, too weak, it wouldn't have made a damn bit of difference, right? Because his life as a bodhisattva does not depend on how strong he is or how healthy he is, right? Or even how smart he is. You can still have Alzheimer's and be a bodhisattva. There's hope for us all, right? This is the good news. Anyway, I hope that was of some interest. I was going to read this poem by James Wright, kind of a Western version of this. And I read it last night and I thought, I think I have to rewrite this too, So I think we're going to end today. Blessings all.
Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is Thank you again for being here for our Sunday service this morning. If there are any brief announcements, we'll do those now. First, I will mention that I believe there is a meal today. Yes, of delicious food. So when the meal gong sounds, we'll do our chant and then we'll share some delicious food with each other. Any other announcements?
All right. Well, first of all, welcome to everyone who's here for the first time today. You are very much welcome to it's back. To participate in that lunch. We're so happy to have you and to continue the conversation over lunch. For all members of the temple and others who might be interested, we are about to embark on our annual teachings retreat this coming week. Starts on Tuesday, runs through Saturday. It's a daytime adventure. Registration technically closed on the 4th for those who wanted to participate in meals, but that might be a little flexible, and drop-ins are welcome if you don't want food particularly. So come for all of it, come for part of it. It's a wonderful way to deepen your practice and learn about, in this case, the chant that we did today, the harmony of relative and absolute. We're going to dig into that line by line and deepen our understanding together. Also coming up later in the month of July, the very end, and into August, we have our annual Jukai retreat. This is a time when our new class of initiates are going to finish their long preparation to take the precepts. It's going to end in their precept ceremony. The retreat is a week long. It's a deep, full session, and it's open to all temple members, not just the initiates, and it's an opportunity to come support them by creating a deep, rich practice space in the community, and also an opportunity to deepen your own practice. So if that's something you're interested in doing, please sign up. If you've never gone to a session before and you'd like to come for the first time, that's also a beautiful time to do that. See me about what that would be like. Thank you very much.
I'm Eka. I just wanted to say that we just finished the teen weekend retreat. Fuzin and I did that, and the teens in the back, and it was such a success. We named it the Red Thread Retreat. Also, the next Teen Dharma get-together is August 12th at 6 p.m. here at the temple, and then we are going to be formulating a cohort for a coming of age within our community for teens. So if you know any teens that may be interested in that, send them my way. Also, Pride for Toledo is August 19th. If you're interested in signing up for that and haven't seen that on the internet, I know it's coming in the newsletter and whatnot, but please let me know and I can get you that information. Thank you.
And one last announcement. Next Saturday night is our annual arts night. So if you would like to perform, there is a form that you can sign up at on our website and on the Facebook page, or contact Reverend Kaishan. And if you would just like to come and support and co-create this evening of creativity, please do so. I believe it starts at 7, or I think it's 7. It's on the website or somewhere.
Thank you very much. Please restore the Zendo.
Teens, please come up front for a picture.